Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's good to be back again. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's good to be back again. Oh, it's good to be back. Hi, everybody. It's Friday morning. It's good to be back with more than me in the studio because last week Marianne was away with the fairies, or actually the rest of her family, who might be fairies. I don't know. In where were you, by the way?
Turkey.
Turkey. I have been to Turkey once, a long, long time ago. I can't say it was a particularly great experience. Got food poisoning. Yeah, nasty. Ended up having to try and find. We stayed in a really bad hotel. Ended up trying to find something very kind of bland to eat. Managed to find a fast food restaurant, which most people will know of with a certain letter, to eat for the rest of the time that was there because
I did
it was.
last year when we went to Egypt. I wasn't well. I had a massage, a very deep tissue massage, and it can make you a little bit poorly in the stomach area. And I
Right.
think it did. So that was my birthday present last year when I was away. So I was in an amazing 5-star hotel with beautiful wine, cocktails, food, and I just didn't want to eat or drink. And anybody that knows me knows that I do quite like wine. So I was a little bit gutted. So, but no, this year we went to a beautiful hotel this time, so the food was exquisite. So it was nice. And now I just don't eat when I come home. So
I must admit, the first time I went away on holiday to an all-inclusive after I stopped drinking alcohol was really difficult because it was about, I'm going to say it was about 3 months after, and I hadn't quite got over the change. It was just hard because like people were just going up and getting drinks all of the time, and of
I
course they're
think if
all.
you choose somewhere, we went to an all-inclusive when I was expecting Oliver, and we were really disappointed because the choice of non-alcoholic drink was not really. Whereas if you choose it like where we went, they had a brilliant menu for. I mean, you could ask them to make anything, but they had a brilliant like mojitos and there was something else. So you could pretty much. There was a really nice one that we had that was strawberry and basil, and
Oh,
it was really nice, and that was really nice to have because it was nice, refreshing. Because I don't really like sweet drinks either, so
no.
that was quite nice. So
There you go. I'll
back,
wait and
back.
see. I'll give you a report after I've been back. The last time I did it was fine. Which was in Portugal, and they had like non-alcoholic beers and stuff. That was absolutely fine. But there we go. We've got a guest. We've got a guest, and we're going to bring our guest on now. So, do you want to introduce the guest as they make it up the stairs to come to the studio?
Me.
Yeah.
This is Romany, who's amazing. I say met, of the excluded group. So she was one of the very, very talented people who was excluded from any financial help during COVID. And she's one of the very many amazing people that I met who I never would have done actually had we not gone through that. And she fascinates me with what she does, and I thought it would be great to get her on. And she's got the most amazing voice.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, she's just coming upstairs now. She's just knocking. There we are, and I'll let her in. Romany, how are you?
I'm great. I'm going to put my glasses on now so I can see you. I just thought I'd give you a treat of my face
We've
without the
all gone for black
glasses.
glasses. We've all gone for black glasses.
We all have matching glasses. We're
We
all
do.
sponsored by the matching glasses company.
Vision Express, by the look of it.
No, actually, mine are from my local opticians, and they're really expensive. And
No, I
I'll
go direct.
never going to make that mistake again. There we go.
I'm glasses direct. I'm cheaper.
Oh, there you go. It was the first time I'd ever had glasses, so I didn't know. I didn't understand that you could, like, go supermarket shopping for glasses. Anyway, lovely to meet you. Where are you coming from? That looks like a lovely boudoir that you have there.
Well, it's a 500-year-old stone cottage in Cumbria.
Wow.
Yeah. If you look around here, and you see that's I've got the curtains shut so the dog doesn't bark. But it's a really, really old cottage in Cumbria, which was the upside, Marianne, of the excluded, because I had to move because of, not having any money in COVID. And I landed in this little cottage in Cumbria, and I really like it. And it's very cozy.
The last place I saw you living was on a cruise ship.
Yeah. And I've gone back to them now. I'm back in September, and I didn't do it for 4 years, but I went back in June. And I was saying to everyone, oh, I don't want to travel anymore. I just like being at home. And then I got on the cruise ship and went, oh, it's really nice. And I was walking around, I don't know, a little village in Greece or something. I was like, I really like traveling, actually. So
I have to say, I've never been on a cruise, but I keep looking at these adverts that come on the telly for cruises. And of course, you've got, Jane McDonald and Susan that keep doing these cruise shows around the world and whatever. Lucky sods. You look at these cruises now, and you look at these ships. I mean, they're like a whole village, aren't they? They're just absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's crazy. And why entertainers are being on ships is that's where the theatres are. It's like, so during COVID and here, I was like, well, I'm just going to work in England. So how do you get a theatre gig? You just don't. But when you get on the ships, they've got the best equipped theatres with techies and screens and lights and so
and an audience that can't get away.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And an audience actually wants to see the show. And it's interesting on the ship I've just been on Explorer 1, which is a new ship. The audience I think they're so posh that they don't really go and see the shows because they're at the restaurants eating. Oh, right. And it was really hard to get the people in to see the shows there was one chap at the coffee place, Luca, from Italy. And I said, oh, I'm doing a show tonight. Do you want to come? He was like, well, I am Italian, so I will be eating. I was like, okay, Luca. But that's not on all the ships. On lots of the ships, the shows are really, really popular. I think that's just on a super sophisticated one.
They just, maybe they just need to, introduce maybe some kind of more Americanized system there, whereby the waiters get rude halfway through the meal and just take the rest of the meal away. No, I think you've had enough of that now. Right, entertainment's on now.
Enough food. You've been eating all day.
Yeah. Gluttons for
so
punishment.
tell us what you do.
Yeah, do.
What is it you do?
Oh, what I do? Oh, so I am a magician. So I don't really even do card tricks, but I do very, things disappear, things appear, and I tell stories while I'm doing it. And I'm a character called Romany Diva of Magic, which is completely different to me. And I always think that I'm maybe her roadie, or I'm the one that does all the graft. And she is some sort of, she won't even prepare her show. She'll be having a massage with some Brazilian dancing boys or something. She's like
is that your actual name, Romany?
Yeah, but I got it when I was 21, when I told my parents they got my name wrong. They got my mum gave me a really nice sort of name that she liked, but it was the wrong name. And so when I was on a clown course when I was 21, everyone was called Rhubarb or I don't know, Fifi Titsabel or something. And I was like, I've got a really ordinary, nice but ordinary name. And I went back to my parents and went, right, what's my name? And my dad said, it's Romany. And it felt true. And I was working at British Telecom at the time. So I went to British Telecom and said, oh, by the way, my name's now Romany. And they went, oh, okay. And I was really impressed that British Telecom, normal British Telecom, they didn't go, what the hell? What are you talking about? They just went, oh, okay, we'll change it. And all right.
I've always wondered because I've got, I think, Gypsy Spanish blood in me. So whenever I hear it, I kind of always think of that. So I didn't know if there was.
And I haven't. I've got like Welsh Irish ancestry, but I was always fascinated by, that picture of the Romany caravan and the dancers and the clearing in the woods. And I even got a tambourine that I've still got. It's in the bookshelf over there when I was like 3. And that picture of the dancers in the wood and the vaudeville entertainers arriving in a village and setting up and then disappearing, I was always fascinated by that, and that's what I wanted to be. And even when I was working for British Telecom, they gave me a company car, and even then I would go and sleep in it in the forest. I mean, crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I had a Ford Sierra. It wasn't a camper van. It was a Ford Sierra, if you remember those things. And I would go and help out with the forestry in the you know, like you can go and help out, I don't know, getting rid of rhododendrons and whatever. And then I'd sleep in my company car in the forest when I was like 22. So I was always that traveller.
So were you into the magic then?
No. So I went to a magic class, I think when I was 25. There was a adult education centre opposite my British Telecom office. And on Monday nights, there was a magic class. And on Monday nights, the magic teacher would like teach miracles with cards and coins. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And Mick said, I was really, really obsessed with it. And Mick said, hey, do you want to, I'm putting on a show to take to Austria this summer, a street show. Do you want to be my partner? And I was like, yes. And at the same time, I was super, super stressed with British Telecom. I was heading for a breakdown. So once I'd had a breakdown, I was at home with agoraphobia and the doctors put me on Prozac and all this sort of thing. But Mick, the magic teacher, came round and we put this show together. And we drove down to Austria in my Ford Sierra company car while I was off sick. Because while I was doing the street performing and that, I was fine. The problem was I didn't want to be a British Telecom sales executive. That was what made me ill.
It was just the job itself, or the
it was like it's a very stressful job. What was I doing?
Yeah.
I never wanted to be executive anything. But luckily I had a breakdown, because that made it impossible to keep working for Telecom. Because the trouble is, when you've got a really good job and a company car, I mean, I didn't have any kids or dependents, but imagine if you do, then it's very difficult to give up the job.
Stuck. I think that's the problem, isn't it? People, quite often, we talk about this quite a lot, Graham and I do, about how it's all very well, I know quite often people say, oh, you need to take the easier life and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but when you've got, I've got some friends that haven't got kids, and I've said, that's all very well, but I've got a friend who's just going through a breakup, and actually it's odd because he's like, I could do anything I want now. He said, money's not a problem. And he said, and I'm going, oh my God, you can do anything you want. Yeah. But how funny that actually he maybe had wanted children and didn't want his life to work out like that. And so, having those choices is great. But as he said, I've got the money, but I don't know what my, I don't really know what my life is. So many people, though, do end up, and that's why when I trained to be a teacher, I did it just before I had the kids, but I never went for any promotion because I didn't want to, because the money for the payback, it wasn't going to be worth it. Wasn't going to be worth it. And then once you get on that, once you're earning that, you kind of feel like you've got to stay there, don't you then?
Yeah. All our decisions, change our lives. So I didn't want kids. It wasn't I didn't want kids, but at the time when I could have had kids, I didn't have any money because I was married to a street performer, and I had only just begun my career, so we didn't have any money. And also I know that having kids is enormously creative, and I needed all my creativity to create a show, and it was like the show or the kids. And I made a very clear decision that I wanted a show. And then when it got to when I was 39 and I had the show and I had enough money, and I was then looking for a partner, and I was like, well, if I meet a man who wants kids, then I'll have kids with him, because I've got the show. And the money wasn't the thing. It was the show that was important. Yeah. But then he didn't want kids. I was like, oh, okay, fine. We get a dog.
Yeah, but it makes that, I think it's that, I know years ago I was with somebody who'd had children, and I was never fussed about having them. I didn't think I could have them. And actually then when I met someone that already had them, I was cautious because I said, I need to make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, and like you say, then I think when you leave it in the lap of the gods like that, it made that decision, didn't it, for you? Yeah. But it isn't, I think when you're, like you said, that was your everything. And there is quite a lot about, I see quite a lot around people saying about whether people should have kids and shouldn't. Sorry, I've got a child. You need to go out. Sorry. Sorry.
You're having things thrown at you mid-podcast. What's the world coming to?
Yes, I think people, there's sort of this negativity around whether people should have kids, shouldn't, whether it's selfish, whether it's not. And I just think it's none of anybody else's business why people do, whether they have 1, 4, 20, however many. It's not really anybody else's business, because as you said, there'd be nothing worse than, like, I didn't know if I could. And actually, I always said, if I meet somebody that does, and actually we had a discussion and said, if we can, we can, if we can't, we can't, because he didn't think he could. And as it was, I sometimes it was best to do, when I have stuff thrown at me. But that's, how it was. But what you do, and what, for some people, what they do is very much what they are. As you said, that's what your show was. And to not be able to do that because you're bringing up children.
Yeah.
I don't think it's selfish. I hear people saying it is selfish, and I think absolutely not. It's not.
Everyone's completely different, aren't they? Because and where that decision came, I was meeting 2 girlfriends, and one had just had the second miscarriage, and the other one was pregnant. And the pregnant one hadn't told the woman with miscarriages because she didn't want to. And I knew both. And so for this issue was really important for both of them. And I thought, I was on an escalator in Islington, going from the bottom to the top. They're really long escalators. And I thought, what do I think about this? And that was when I went, well, if I got to 50 and I had a show, but no kids, I'd be okay. If I got to 50 and had kids, but no show, I would not be okay. I would have to kill the children. And that was the decision, and it was really clear. But yeah. And again, we're all completely different. Some people really want kids and some people don't, and we're all completely different. And I've now just got a dog that really wants to go out for a walk, but she's not going to go because I'm having a podcast.
I've got 5 children. I've got 5
Have
children.
You?
Yeah, I was obviously on the escalator Angel for a long time. I've got a funny feeling. I do think I looked it up on Wikipedia or something once. I think the escalator at Angel is the longest escalator in Europe.
Right. And so I had that to decide.
Yeah.
And when I got to the top, I was like, right, no kids.
It's a long time. It's a long time. It's an awful long time. When you first got into magic, you said a minute ago you don't really do sort of card tricks and things like that. So is there a reason why you kind of avoided cards and whatever? Did you have to be nimble of finger for cards or whatever?
Okay. What it is, and also people go, well, which magicians did you admire growing up? It's like, well, I didn't see any. I mean, maybe Paul Daniels was on the television, but I don't remember any magic ever. I didn't have a magic set. I wasn't interested in magic. What I was interested in was Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli and all those amazing Busby Berkeley and all those beautiful dancing films and Sid Charisse and Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra and all of those. I was obsessed. And I would watch them all weekend with my mother. We'd sit and we'd watch a couple. And then she was born just after the war, working class in London, didn't have anything. And so she sent me to have everything that she didn't have. So dancing classes, elocution classes, drama classes, trampoline, violin, God name it. I was going to a class every single night. And I was totally stage struck. And so I just wanted to be a dancer or an actress or a singer. But what shaped my life was that when I was 15, in the amateur operatics, I got the part of Louise in Roger and Hammerstein's Carousel. And because I wanted to look ballerina thin, I stopped eating, as you do when you're 15, because you think, oh, that's a good idea, I'll go on a diet. And of course, it was the time of Jane Fonda and the grapefruit diet and all that bollocks. And I got really thin, fine. But then often, when the moment you start eating again, you put it back on. And so at the age of 16, when it came to auditioning for stage school, I'd put on about a stone, so wasn't particularly fat, but at 15, completely the wrong shape to go to succeed in an audition for dancing school. And that shaped my life. That was it. I didn't go to drama school. I didn't go to stage school. And because I wouldn't have got in because I was a stone overweight. And that to me was a complete tragedy. I didn't know what to do about it. I cried every night. I was desperately unhappy, but nothing worked. And so I then ended up going to university and everything else. And so that dream of having a beautiful stage show was cut short at 15, 16. But then when I had a nervous breakdown and went, okay, everybody, I listened to what you told me, and I went and got a university, and I got a good job, and I got a company car, and I got salary. And now look at me, I can't leave my bedroom. I'm on 3 times the recommended dose of Prozac a day. Okay, I'm now not listening to anybody, no advice anymore. I'm doing exactly what I know my dream was, which was to have a beautiful show. But then I tried salsa dancing, and I tried stilt walking, and I tried this, and I can't sing. And that's when I found magic. So I wanted a beautiful magic show. And that's why I can do cards, but my show is a beautiful, theatrical, feathery. It's almost as if Judy Garland and Bette Midler did magic.
Right, yeah.
It's all full of, and the words are really, you know, I think I said in the book that I tinker with the words like a silversmith with jewelry. So all the words are chosen, and the aim was that the audience would feel as if they'd been like maybe listen to a bedtime story, and that they would go out with their hearts renewed and full of light again.
That's lovely.
And that's the aim. Yeah, that's the aim.
Do you think, with you having said that, just earlier on, I was reading a post on LinkedIn, and it was somebody saying, oh gosh, all you people that are writing your posts, which are badly timed, saying that people that have got their A-levels, if they haven't passed, it's not the end of the world. And then saying that, and I came on and I said, well, actually, I don't really think that's for you to say that. I said, because I didn't pass my A-levels, and so I do pass that on, because I've got a child that's going to get GCSEs next week, who probably isn't going to do that well against others. He wasn't doing well, he hadn't had the sport. And so actually what I've always done is, you know, there's somebody lived with us for a bit. It was a young girl. Unfortunately, she's taken her own life since, but she came with us. She'd had quite a lot of mental health problems. She'd fallen out with her mum, and she'd gone to grammar school, quite a high flyer. And but you could see she was struggling with all of it, you see. So she dropped out for a bit, then she redid her second year, I think it was, and then in the end, she struggled through all of it. But she saw me a bit like a mum, sister, auntie figure sort of thing. And I remember saying to her, she said, but I want to teach, and I can't if I don't like this. And I said, right, stop. I said, I failed a couple of my A-levels, and I am a teacher, and I teach teachers now. Okay, it didn't happen overnight, but I said, and that's why I was sort of getting to that, was that actually all of those things I went through have made me do what I do well now. So hearing you saying about the ballet and stuff, that actually you didn't get to do that, and that hurt, and you went down that other route. But actually, it's kind of like, for me, I feel like I have to have a go. And Graham and I again have talked about this, things that I'm going to do, that I'll do, and then I'll go, I don't want to do such and such, and then I'll go, okay, well I will then, because apparently I'm good at it. Because it's like you have to go through that, and like you said, you kind of went, right, okay, I've done it, and that's why my son's musician. That's what he absolutely loves, and I haven't at all tried to talk him out of that, because there's absolutely no point. He's not academic, but you know what? He's 16 and he's teaching people now,
right?
And you know,
I just want to throw in something very quickly there. Where are you seeing these people saying you shouldn't be saying that? Is that this LinkedIn predominantly?
No, it was a post. It was someone sort of saying that when people say that kind of thing, they're trying to dismiss that person's feelings. And so quite a few people said, actually, no, I have said, so a few people said that, but also saying, look, yes, of course, I failed my A-levels on my 18th birthday, at my actual 18th birthday. I said, so it's about saying this seems like a massive moment in time for you, but actually, yes, have it. It hurts, cry, whatever, but actually, you know that there's lots of options out there, also more than ever nowadays.
Jeremy Clarkson put a post on Twitter, and he said,
that's what it was to do with. It was to do with.
He said, I got a B and 2 U's, and I've got my own pub, which is opening next week. Why didn't you come round?
Yeah.
Whereas I was really academic, and so that meant that I had to go to university, which I hated and didn't do me any good at all. So I think we're all different. I think practical skills are really important. Like if I'd started my magic career at 18 and not at 26, I might have been working earlier, and we're all different. But I'll tell you something, it took me 20, 30 years to get a good act together for many different reasons. And lots of things failed. And I didn't know really why, but then I wrote the book, and the book is just the epic story of me trying something and failing and trying something and failing. And it's very funny. At the time, it wasn't funny. It was tragic. But it's a book about persistence. And I couldn't have written a book about persistence if it hadn't taken me forever to achieve something. And even now, I'm working on the second cruise show. And I didn't realize that I was ADHD, because when we were growing up, we didn't even have that. I didn't realize. I just thought I was.
I didn't know you were. I suspected you might be.
So everyone keeps telling me I am now. I'm like, oh, and then I watched a few videos. I'm like, oh, but I just thought I couldn't concentrate. I just thought, I mean, it made me laugh. I was watching your video that's on your Facebook post about, basically it's a girl saying, her boyfriend says, what are you doing folding up those clothes? And she said, well, I've got really important things to do today. So therefore I'm going to spend my time folding up clothes. And I've got 4 days to really get a deadline done. And I thought, I'll tell you what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go through the whole cottage and clean all the cupboards and rearrange all the tins. That's what I'm going to do. So this is why it takes forever to do anything.
But you can't. I mean, I was laughing with a friend about this last night, because I was looking in my bedroom's in the loft, and I thought, I'm sure earlier on the suitcase was stacked. And then I looked and I thought, there's a big one on the bed. Obviously, somebody wanted something from the suitcase. So rather than actually get it out and then put everything back, it was left. And so I was speaking to a friend of mine last night, and I was saying about when we came back off holiday, I need everything very tidy. And, because I know my brain just either goes into complete chaos or I have to have it tidy. So my bedroom's a mess at the moment, but that's because that's where my head's at, because the kids are off school. There's hardly any work, and I'm just got my head somewhere that it shouldn't be, and I can't concentrate. So I was saying to this friend, I said, like, I mess around before bed, and I'm like, just go to bed. Just get into bed, Marianne, and go to bed. And I was like, no, because I might miss out on something. What the heck are you going to miss out on? It's like 11, 12 at night. And I go, oh, yeah, but it's really like boring. I actually really love sleeping. So when we were away on holiday, because Samuel's got it as well, we were playing petanque. And there was loads of people playing it. So we were stood there, and Sam was 16. He was going, I don't want to play this like this. And I said, tough, because you are. So we were all like playing. And of course, everybody was having their goes, and it took a long time. And I was kind of people watching, really. Anyway, they said, we're going to play another game. And Sam looked at me and he went, I can't do this. I literally am going out of my mind in boredom, and I can't do this. And I thought, mate, I'm with you on this as well.
Me too.
I said, right, okay, we're on separate teams. So I'll just tell them that you're struggling to concentrate, because that's acceptable for a child. And I'll just tell them my back's hurting. And then we both, that was a member of each team down. But it's really funny, like you say that. And the more people I know, that when you look at people that are in creative industries, and I would see teaching as that as well, I'm always drawn towards those people, because whether it's their sense of humor or whether it's they get me because I'm a little bit off the wall, but I'm also quite boring, you just kind of get it. And then when you explain things like that, I look sometimes and I'll be messing around, and I'm like, just go and pack. And I go, it's like I've got a devil here going, no, don't. And the angel's going, but you really need to. And I'm going, yeah, but I don't want it. I want to live life on the edge. I just want to leave it all to the last minute because it's fun. Not. No, it's not.
But the little things like on your video about hyper focus. So I remember I was performing in the Hollywood Magic Castle, and I was doing new material because I was running new material. And instead of rehearsing and doing everything, I've decided that we're going to have banners saying Romany, that when I push a button, they're going to drop down. And then I decided that I'm going to hand sew these banners. So So I spend the next like 4 days hand sewing freaking banners and not practicing or rehearsing.
Yeah, but do you think it is because, and again, I don't like interviews. I never practice, never, don't do anything. So I was telling somebody I know the other day who's a manager, and he was taking on some apprentices, so they were interviewing, and I said, "Oh, actually, I said I was reading something the other day, and someone posted that it was really awful that people hadn't done preparation for the interview, and they didn't know anything about the company." So I interjected, obviously, and I said, "Well, please try not to see it that the person didn't care." I said, because actually, if that's me, if you say you've got to find out about the company, I'm going to go, how much? Because I'm going to do like a whole day's worth of research, but I'm going to go, I don't know how much to do, so I'm going to do none. And I'm just going to wing it somehow. So in the end, I said to him, he said, so with that in mind, he then changed the approach. So then what he did was he said to all of them, actually, what I want you to do is, can you answer these? I'm going to ask you some questions during the interview about where the company name came from or whatever else. And I said, that's great, because if you say to somebody that's either autistic or ADHD, and I think that's why now when I say to people, write some notes about whatever, I remember being at school, they'd wheel the television in and they'd say, watch this video and make notes. And even at that age, I'd go, on what?
Why? What's
on
the point?
what? So now I always say to people, right, I'm going to play you it twice, watch it once, and then I want you to specifically look at these, because I remember back then. And so that's very much the same, is that people just assume that, but when you're somebody that literally wants to know everything, in the end you go, I can't do anything actually, so I'm just going to go and like sew some banners, or I'm going to like go and tidy some drawers, or like do anything that isn't anything related, because actually I think it's because we know when it comes to it, when we're hit with just do something on the spur of the moment, we know we can. So for me, I don't really practice stuff, because if I tried to practice, it goes wrong, because then I'm trying to remember and I'm useless at remembering. So I might as well just ad lib it.
Can I just ask Romany, how does that fit in with, do you find sometimes that's been a struggle in terms of fitting in with other people's ideas of what you should be doing then?
Me or Marianne?
You, Romany.
Oh, me, I don't care.
Okay.
So for example, that whole thing at 26 and getting really ill because of fitting in with everyone's, you've got to get the good A levels and the good exam and get the good job and all that. That was such an extreme experience that after that, I was like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. I'm going to do exactly what I want. And not in a selfish way, but in that, I don't care if you think I should be doing this or I should be doing this. I don't care. Why? Because it makes me ill caring. And
I think that's where you've used that experience. And I know for me, being diagnosed was quite, I almost wish I could go back, because it was all a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't ever suspect that I was. I just thought I was useless and talked too much and all this sort of stuff. I wish I could go back to that moment, because it literally was that defining moment of, oh my gosh, I can just do what I want, and that's great. And I wish when I hear you say that, it is just so liberating to just go, I don't care what you think, actually.
I mean, I had another thing going on, which again, I came out with the book. Before I wrote the book, no one knew that I don't have it anymore, but I was bulimic. So I was bulimic for 30 years and ill with that. And then I wrote the book and then I got better. Oh, which is crazy, isn't it? It's like, I don't know the magic about that. I don't know the science about, you write a book about a thing that you've had for 30 years that you tried everything you could to make it better and nothing worked. And then you thought, fuck it, I'm just going to write a book to help all the young women with it. And magic dust. And I haven't got it anymore. But the point was that I had to really, really look after myself. So I couldn't get overwhelmed and I couldn't get overtired, or I couldn't get this, because if I did, then I'd just get really ill. So that and also it's top secret. So I just had to, that was another thing in the story. Whereas the trouble when you say about practicing and the often people with ADHD and all that, we can just do things on the cuff. If you said, hey, Romany, tomorrow I want you to go to the O2 and in front of 1,000 people, I want you to talk about something. I'd go, great. Where's my first class ticket? That's no problem. However, with magic, it's a bit like being a violinist or something, or you have to practice because things don't disappear and appear on their own because it's not real magic. So, so if you want, I don't know, the trick I'm doing, I tie a knot on a silk scarf and I take it off and, oh, look, there's a knot. You have to practice. But the trouble is that when you start at the beginning of that process, you can't do the trick. You can't do it. It's a bit like maybe I'm not a skateboarder, but maybe you want to be a skateboarder, but you can't. So you're going to have to fall off loads of times before you can even get halfway there. And I hate that state. And so I don't want to practice. And I have to absolutely make myself, I will do anything other than practice, which is why the house is usually tidy and clean, because I will clean and tidy. And
which is crazy because it's something you love. It's that whole...
I don't love the practice.
No, but
I love being on stage once I've done the trick where I go I even do it for you right now. Look, I've got it right here because I did. It's not that I prepared this, but it's, you know, once I'm on stage and I can do it and I've chosen the music and all that, then it's
you'll
great.
do it so seamlessly that people won't even realise how much pressure, how much it's taken.
I've never done this on the camera before. I don't know whether it will even work. But look, we tie the knot. You see, and I've just signed up to Apple Music so I can, and then we pull it off, pull it off, and look, come off.
See?
And then I make a wine glass appear and it's all this thing. But so I remember years ago, because I've got a birdcage act, which I now can do because I've been doing it for 20 years. But I wouldn't practice it. And every time I went out and did a show, it would go wrong. The bird cages wouldn't appear. And husband, who's not showbiz at all, he went, look, what you have to do, you have to put on your costume, the whole thing. And if you go to my website, you'll see the whole costume. And you have to do this 3-minute routine where you get out 5 bird cages and you make things appear 3 times through to camera. And only after that are you allowed to go out for a bike ride, because I was exercise obsessed, or rather that was part of how I dealt with life. And so what I would do is I'd get up and I'd go for a 2-hour bike ride, and then I'm knackered. So now I don't practice. And I remember that feeling of fury. I was like, what the hell do you know? And then thinking he's right. And then forcing myself to put on my costume. It takes 3 hours to do this thing through 3 hours. But after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, practice works. Because when you practice, the bird cages come out of where they're meant to come out. But it has to be done. And there's no getting around it. So like now, the husband's gone off to visit his parents. So I've got a whole week with nothing in the diary, because if there's anything in the diary, I'll get totally distracted. So I have nothing. I've got to walk the dog. There's nothing in the diary. Marianne, I think you're mute.
Yes, she is.
Sorry. I know, it was interesting you say that, because like we often, like I'll say to Graham, or he'll say, when do you want to do whatever it is we're going to do? And I'll say, can we do it either end of the day? Because if it's in the middle of the day, I can't like do anything. So I've got to wait a little bit. And I said to them, can I have it as late as possible, please? Because I know that I end up messing around. And I say messing around, I mean, yesterday I'd been away, and then I came back partway through the day. And then I literally, so I said to Graham, I've had to write the day off because I can't I've got kids off. They're not bothering me, but my head is just like, and I can't ground to anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously there's something that we're going to be doing more of, or I'm going to be doing more of, because I think it's not talked about a lot. It's not talked about. And now, when you were saying about your husband, it's interesting because I don't like people telling me what to do.
No, but he was right.
But only if people know me well enough, then they can. Yeah. And so, and we were talking about coaching. We were talking about people that coach ADHD and this kind of stuff. and I was saying I don't ever want to be coached out of being me. I don't want to be. I'm quite happy being me, but I'm aware that there are some things that I struggle with. But equally, I like other people to be understanding how what my needs are, because I don't see why I should have to change for everybody else. And so that whole idea, when I got access to work and they said you can have coaching, and I was like, I don't want to be coached out of being me, which is fine because I work with Graham and he has coached, but it's more of a support worker role. And, you know, by this whole prescribed, I don't like the idea of counselling, all this stuff, because it all seems contrived and everything else, which coaching does, because the minute they look at their watch, I think, I don't want to talk to you now because you've just looked at your watch, and that annoys me now. And I know they've got to, but actually sometimes I might only need 10 minutes, because I know when I work with people, I don't necessarily coach them up till now, but actually that is what I've done. But the biggest thing is that I've got to know them. So like Graham and I, the other day, he said something to me, and a bit later on, I said that I was upset. And he was like, why? And so we had a conversation about it. And I said, it's just that when you said that, it brought something up in me because of this. There's no way he ever would have known that. Absolutely no way. And it was only by talking about it that I realised why it upset me. And I think this whole idea of coaching is like, I'm going to, again, we talked about this earlier. So someone might say, well, I'm going to coach somebody with ADHD because they struggle with admin and this and this and this. So I'm going to give them this structure. But actually, all it does, it's like being on a diet. If you've got to talk yourself into being on that diet, it's all going to go wrong at some point, isn't it? Because you haven't actually. So, you know, like I was saying, I'm always going to struggle with emails. It's a fact. There's absolutely no point in trying to get away from that. So even if Graham said, right, every day at 10 o'clock, I want you to do this and this, or he set tasks for me. He set Motion up and I don't use it, and I'm probably never going to use it consistently. So he's not going to bother forcing me, because otherwise it just becomes about you doing what somebody else is telling you to. But in reality, when you've got ADHD, you're like, nah, I don't really want to anyway. So really,
but it is finding little things like, and again, I'm lucky not having kids, so I can make an empty diary, you know, like, but it's, I find that if I've got stuff in the diary, then nothing, I can't do anything. So, okay, so I would just, yeah. So, and then when people go, oh, do you want to go? And like, no. And like, for example, I'm going on the cruise ship in September, 4th of September. So this new material has to be good by then. So when people say, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? I'm like, no, until after I've come back from the cruise ship, which is in a month's time.
And actually, I bet there's times I've said no to things and I haven't actually done anything in that period of time. Somebody asked me to go do something, but I couldn't because my brain was going, no.
But if you had done what they wanted you, then you definitely wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah. I'm going to challenge you slightly on what you said earlier, though, Romany, about I don't let people tell me what to do anymore. And I, you know, because we don't exist in a world where we can just do that, because we have to rub alongside other people. I mean, you have to abide by some rules in order to be on a ship and do something with a company and get that, you know, there has to be some things. So to me, I think it's more about how we communicate. And I think the big problem is, and Marianne will know, one of my favorite words is assumptions. I think the problem is, especially for people who are neurodiverse, they're hit with assumptions all of the time, right? And so people are telling them to do things from their normative way of doing things, and expecting them to come over to the light side. You know, it's almost like you're the dark side, this is the light side, come and do it our way. But I actually don't think it's not about that. So I think actually it's more to do with how people communicate what they would like for you, and actually the willingness to learn in that communication as well. So when if I say something to Marianne, like you know, I think this, and she gets upset about it for whatever reason or whatever. If I'm prepared to learn something about me in the exchange of that, and maybe accept that I might be wrong, and that actually we need to find a middle ground, and actually I need to give her time and space and whatever, and I need to, you know, I need to understand this, etc. as well, and I need to move as well as she needs to move, and somewhere we'll find something nice in the middle. Then I think it works. I think where it doesn't work is when someone says, "You got to do this, Romany," and you're like, "No, I'm not. My brain doesn't cope with that. I don't want to do that." But if they're willing, am I right in saying that if they are willing to find out who you are and what you need and work with you, then it works.
I think you give more then as well. I think when it's that I'll give far more if somebody didn't expect it, if you see what I mean. So I've had, as a business coach that was going to work with me once, and they said to me, "You'll appreciate this, right? It's a 12-week course." And I was like, "I can't do it. Like, literally, I can't do it. If it's a 12-week course, that's just absolutely not going to happen, because my brain is going, you know." And as soon as they start telling me I have to do this and you ought to do that, I'm like, "Yeah, but you're not finding out from me." So I think the couple you're talking about with the lady with blue hair, I was saying to Graham just earlier, she I love it because they just embraced each other. So he's autistic, she's got ADHD, and she was going, "Yep, we need to go and find a new table." And so they go out, and the son's with them, and they're going, she's going, "Oh my God, this lamp's amazing." And he said, "Yeah, but it's not a table. We're looking for a table for the new house." So it's just so funny because it's just me. And then she goes, "Oh, this cushion's amazing. The material's really like great on it." It's just, and they went, "Yeah, but it's not a table. You're supposed to be looking for a table." So anyway, we carry on like this, and she says, they say, "Right, we need to be looking for a table." And she says, "All right, okay. I actually like this table, and it's the first one they looked at anyway." And she said, "Yeah, it's everything I want. I absolutely love it." And they said, "Right, okay, let's go and order it." And they said, "It's a 4-week wait for it." And she went, "I can't have it then." And that was it, which people would be like, "Well, you want it." And it's like that need for that sort of, you know, but I love it with them because they actually communicate with each other. And he said she's got this dressing table, and it's velour at the front, and he said, "Oh, look," and it's got all makeup marks on the front of it. And he said, "What have you been doing here?" And she said, "Oh, well, when I'm blending my makeup, I sort of, it's nice because it's material and I can like clean my brush off." And he's like, "Well, couldn't you use something else?" And she went, "Well, it was like there and I could use it." And she said, "Oh, there might be like something I could have used for that." So he said, "So what are we going to do then when we move to the new house? You know, should we get you a wooden one?" And she went, "No, because that's like the dressing table that I've always wanted. And anybody else would be, you've wrecked it. And I know I've ruined so many things before." And I look at it and I think, why did you have no respect for it? And it's because, I don't know, my brain just goes off into like,
do you think that's quite common, actually, in a way, that a lot of people with ADHD look at other people's ADHD behaviour and go, "What the hell?"
Well, I think we do, but we also go, fair play to them. I think it's that less judgment of, it's more of a sort of, like I just front up as me all the time now, and I don't apologise for it, because actually the feedback I've had from people that work with me is that it gives them permission to be themselves. It's a bit like someone said, it's like when you're at school, if you both got a secret, if one of you gives the secret, then they haven't got anything over you. So if I share something about me, which I do, you know, I'd always for years had said, "Oh, you overshare." And I said, unless there was a criteria out there about what we're supposed to share, I don't see that there is. I then would want to say to them, the old me, but I never did, I'd want to say, "I think you're a little bit guarded, but I'm just too polite to tell you." You know, because, and I think that's where you said it, Graham, about it's that respect thing. And I think if everybody just, I also in a way don't like saying I've got ADHD, because actually, if we all just respected the fact that we've all got our funny little nuances or whatever else, that when people say everybody's a bit this or that, and I think, well, then why are you making a big deal about the fact that I did this or I spoke too much or whatever? Why
because
can't
there's like society rules, isn't there? Because, you know, there's something like in interrupting people, or even when people are telling you things and you get really bored halfway through, and so you're like, right, I'm done with this. And my friend would go, oh, we've lost her. You know, he'd be telling me something and I'd be like, right, I'm not interested anymore. And he'd go, and I'd glaze over and he'd go, oh, we lost her. And I saw that as a criticism until I found out about ADHD, and I went, oh no, that's what I'm doing. You know,
but I think it's only fine that it's you. So now I educate other people. So the approach I've got with some of my business coaching that I want to do is actually not to put the onus on the person that's got the ADHD. It's for the manager or team leader for me to be able to work with them as a bit of an intermediary, because actually the more that manager can get to know what that person needs, actually they end up learning. That's like I was saying about you with your husband. Your husband has the right to say those things to you.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes. Do you know what? We set these rules across all of society, though, and that's the thing. We set these rules across all of society. I mean, even you look at this podcast. This podcast has a completely different flavour to it than most stuff that's out there, and one of the reasons being is that I know we'll just go off on a tangent, and you know, sometimes I probably speak very little on this podcast sometimes, especially when it's you and a guest, compared with other podcasts. And the reason being is that, you know, you will talk ad infinitum, and that's fine, that's great, but other people would look at it and go, oh well, yeah, but you know, like the rules about podcasts, and like, you know, people should you know, there should be balance in terms of who speaks and all of that sort of thing. And it's like, well, sod it, no, because we're making this podcast, and that's the thing. But and I had it on a post this morning with someone that sent us their whole business around email marketing, and I said a comment. I said, I think it's fantastic what you do. I appreciate what you do, but I said, personally, I don't really like emails. And I struggle with emails, so I, you know, it's not for me. I totally appreciate what it is that you do, etc. And I'm sure it's great, but you know, for me, all of this stuff you saying about, well, if you do this and make emails exciting, I'm going to read them more. No, I won't, because I really don't like emails. In fact, I struggle with emails completely. And they went, each to their own. And I thought, yeah, well, but I said, well, yeah, but that is the point, isn't it? That is the point, right? And you know, if actually what you're saying to people is you should build your business on email, right? You're missing out a whole group of people out there who hate email, don't like emails, struggle to read emails, find emails an abhorrent waste of time, etc. Right? I wish they brought back fax machines. So much easier. The paper came through. You could see it there. You ripped it off. You either read it or you put it in the bin. You knew what you were getting with an email. A post, just as good, but took too long, you know. But and that's why, like in the last business I was in, internally, because there was a whole load of people that I have no diagnosis, so I don't know what I am. I'm just odd. But there were a whole load of people who were neurodiverse and whatever, and in management, and actually we just banned email internally. We just said, we all hate it, so we're not going to have it. There's other things that we can use which are better than that. So we.
But don't you think, though, it's, I mean, I'm fighting something with them, with a parking company at the moment, so it's gone to court. And I've spoken to the court, and I said, I said, can you, when you send things to me, I need a phone call as well, because I need both. And I'm still now 4 weeks on, I haven't had a phone call from the reasonable adjustment team, because apparently they couldn't get hold of them. And they said, oh, we'll have to have a word with the reasonable adjustment team. And I said, what? They said, oh, well, you don't have to diagnose. You don't have to give us your diagnosis. I said, well, of course I'm going to, because I've told you I've got disability. And I said, and I don't really see that. I said, so if you send me something by post, I just need it backed up with a phone call so that I can then read it and then communicate that I've got that correct. And actually, do you know what? I think most people could probably do with that. I said, because I'm going to read this stuff and I'm a fairly intelligent person, but I still need to know that when I read it, was it communicated with me in the way that it was meant to be? So yeah, 4 weeks on, I still haven't. And then when I spoke to the debt collection company and I said to them, can you please can you phone me and send me a letter? They went, no. And I'm sitting there going, I thought we lived in a world now, like where we were talking about inclusivity and equality and diversity. And yet when I asked very simply, I said, so what happens if I needed it in Braille? Or we can sort that out. And I said, what? So when I say to you, can I have a phone call and a letter? They said, well, you can have one or the other. I said, I don't want one or the other. I need both. And that's the problem.
It's a crazy world. And what these people don't realise, and I did quite a lot of work with clients that work within the sort of EDI space as well. What they don't realise is that it isn't just people with a disability that they're excluding. It's lots of people. There's a whole load of people that haven't been diagnosed with anything that just have a struggle with particular forms of communication and technology. Oh, she's disappeared. You see, it's a magic trick.
She's gone. She's gone.
Yeah, just like that. Or perhaps
that's my point. Is that lots of people haven't been diagnosed, and I just think if we and when we had Sylvia on, and she agreed, if we worked in a way that was neurodiverse, actually, I think we capture a whole bigger audience. That's why when I do the teacher training, I do it with that thread. And because I am neurodiverse, I think that it helps those people that are teaching to be able to see the world in that way, if you see what I mean, because you're going to get more.
Well, one of the audiences that they'll be missing out on a lot of the time will be the older generation, which is a huge part of the population. And when you say things like, it's like when companies say, oh, well, we can only send it to you by email, for example, right? There's a whole load of people that haven't got computer access, or they struggle with computer access, or whatever else. It's just to not listen to people about what communication they want or don't want or whatever is really daft.
And I think actually having the phone call and the written is actually a really good thing, because then you can back up, much the same as when I worked in care. If I communicated something with somebody, I would say, can you communicate back with me what you've understood about what I've just said?
Yeah. Now, listen, we are nearing the end of time and we have to keep it to an hour, otherwise we can't restream it. But I'm just going to do a little bit of magic myself. All right. So I'm just going to do this. Yay! And look! I made you disappear and then reappear. And I think I should be part of the magic circle now.
Sorry about the phone thing. I'm back on my phone, but my laptop was doing funny noises, and I thought, no, it's them. And then suddenly it stopped. I was like, oh.
It's funny, Romany. I was saying earlier on when you said about what was his name? What was the magician's name?
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels.
His son used to teach me Pilates.
Wow, there you go.
No,
it's down the road.
There you go. There you go. And I never met Debbie McGee. There you go.
She had me on her radio show. She was very supportive. She got me on with the book.
There you go. You see,
and the dog's going to be pleased because she's slathering to go out now. She's like been very patient.
Thank you so much.
What's your book called? What's your book called?
Yeah, what's the book called? Very quick.
Oh, the book is called. It's called Spun into Gold: The Secret Life of a Female Magician, and it's on Amazon, and it's on Audible as well. So if you like your Audible books, I read it. So it's on Amazon.
Spun into Gold.
And if you're German, it's published in Germany on German bloody Amazon.
Wow.
But Spun into Gold, and it's people say it's one of those books you can't put down, which is a lovely compliment, but it's funny, but it's really the tale of never giving up, but with lots of mysterious events. Like I read it and I'm like, oh my God, but I look back at my 30-year-old self and think some ridiculous things I did. and like getting stood up by a clown and many things. Anyway, so
well, we look forward to reading that. Folks, we must go before it gets to 60 minutes, but never gonna give you up. Right, we are now gonna go. Do have a great Friday, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Yeah.